Okay, so hi everyone. Hi everyone, welcome to Geeks Talk Thursday, and today I'm going to take you through some basic getting started with Django Rest framework, which is a Python framework. And yeah, we're going to try and create a sample of API that I created and it's on GitHub. So I'm just going to take you through the process and what you're supposed to know before you learn Django Rest framework, and we're going to also go through the app that we created, the authentication part. So if you have any question as I continue, you can just post them on the chat, and then I will answer them after the call. Okay. So my name is Monica Oyugi, and I am a freelance web developer. I'm an alumni of Moringa School, studied full stack dev, just graduated last week, and yeah, welcome to the call, and I hope you enjoy. So getting started, we're going to learn about Django Rest framework, and we're going to go through what Django Rest framework is. And before you learn what Django Rest framework, you notice that Django is a Python framework. So before you learn Django and any Django Rest, make sure you have a basic knowledge in Python and Django itself for you to come to Django Rest framework. Because if you just come to Django Rest framework, it will be difficult for you to understand how Django works itself. And so make sure you go to getting started with Python, just get to know the data types, what it does, get to know what OOP does, the object-oriented programming, what it does, the methods and the flow structure of Python. After that, make sure you master it. You know how classes are written, you know how functions are written, because when you come, yeah, indications there. Oh, okay, let's continue. So, yeah, that's all you need to. Most of the things that you need to know about Python, and then move to Django. Get to know what Django is, when it was created, for some basic knowledge, how it started, some of the main aims, why it's being used, which I'm going to tell you at the moment. I'm sorry I didn't have my slides, but I'm just going to tell you. So Django, Django is a very powerful tool for making big applications, and some of the companies that use Django is Instagram, Netlify, and even Google itself. And when we'll be done with the meeting, I will share a link to my GitHub where there's an Instagram clone that I've done with Django, and I hope you're going to enjoy it the call. So let's move to what is Django Rest framework. So as I said earlier, Django Rest framework is a Python framework that can be used to build RESTful applications and APIs. And so we want to go through what is an API, what is the Django Rest framework itself, the HTTP methods, and the rest itself, the definitions and everything. Moving forward, we'll start with what an API is. An API is abbreviated as an application programming interface. These are just some set of subroutines and definitions, protocols that are tools used in building an application software. So if at least you've used Postman, the moment you've already could you mute your mics, please? So when you're done with creating your app, the moment you create the API, you're going to use a tool called Postman to test it in order for you to consume it if you want to use the API in order to build it on the front-end side. And moving to DRF, DRF stands for Representational State Transfer, and it's majorly used for web-based architecture for data communication, and it can also be used for an HTTP to make calls between machines. And so some of the HTTP modules we're going to look at this when we'll be working with Postman at the end of, after I take you through the application that was building a ticket system. So HTTP methods, we have get, put, post, and delete. For get is where we retrieve the resource. For put is where we can update the source, the code that you had coded on your using the ID of choice. And then for post, we have where we had created the resource, and delete, as the name describes, is used for deleting things. So REST API is a web service that responds with pure information and returns it to a JSON format. Yeah, so I think that is the basic knowledge of what Django REST framework is, APIs, and REST API. I hope if you have questions, you can just put them on the chat, and then I'll be able to answer them after the call. So REST means the REST API. REST stands for Representational State Transfer, which is a lightweight alternative of a machine for a remote structure calls used in some web services. And as I said, DRF is a powerful toolkit for building with REST APIs, which can be used to in serializations that support both the ORM and non-ORM data. So getting started, we're going to create a simple app. So I've created the app. I'm just going to show you how to get started in creating this app, how to create the project and the app from GitHub. And then after that, we'll just switch the app that I had made accordingly. So, I hope everyone can see my screen. So normally, how I get started with building my apps, I always go to GitHub, come on the, I hope everyone of you is familiar, or those who have at least interacted with GitHub. GitHub is where you can store your code, is where you can just keep your code for future references. You can use your application in GH pages to send to people on how they look, your app looks like if it's a static site. If not, there are some dynamic sets that can be deployed to Heroku using GitHub directly. So I always come to GitHub, click on, then create a new repository. So like this one, we're going to create an app called, it's for movies. So I'm just going to write test movies because I already have movies that exist in one of my repositories. So after that, you'll come here at where you initialize the repository with the README by default. And then make sure you add a gitignore. So when you come to gitignore, you choose the type of language that you want to use. It's Python. Oh, sorry, yeah, gitignore. Yeah, so you select Python. So when you click on it, it has different languages. So gitignore comes with different packages depending on the language that you've chosen. You can choose Python, and then you also add license file, MIT license, like the way I do it. And then you go ahead and create a repository. After that, you'll just come here, click on your far right, there's a clone and download. Clone this folder in order for you to get started to transfer it to your local machine. So you'll come and click on the clone or download button. Click on the tab that tells you to copy, meaning you're copying the URL of the whole folder that you've created on GitHub. Come to your terminal, depending with which one you use, either Windows or Linux, and then paste it into the directory that you want. So for my app, we'll come to, so when you want to get into a folder directory, you cd into maybe desktop, and then we make directory, means creating a folder. Let's test movies. And then you cd, which means you get into the test movies folder. After that, you type git clone, and then you paste by pressing Shift Control V to paste the URL folder that you had created on GitHub. After that, it will come and clone itself here, which means you'll now have your folder in your local machine. So ULS, meaning you list to see which folders exist in that repository, and you have test movies. So you'll come and cd in. So up to here, I hope you're okay. And then after this is now where we're going to start the process of creating the project app and the folder app. Minute. Yeah. So you cd into the test movies. After that, by default, the branch, we have the branch master as default. You can create many branches as you want. So when you want to create a Django application, you first create the project and then you create the app. I will create each one of them, and then I will tell you what each folder contains and its purpose in the app. So creating a new project, just type Django dash admin space start. Yeah, start project, and then the name of the app. We could call this authentication because of the project. We could call this movies. And then make sure you put a space and put this period here. In most cases, if you don't put the period sign, it means, so the period sign means if you don't put in the period sign, it will come with two subfolders of the name site. It will come with the outer and the inner folder. But if you put in the period, it means you're stopping the outer folder from appearing, so it will just bring you the inner folder that comes outside the manage.py file. So when you press on enter, it will have created those files. So when you ls listing, it will show you the files that are there, right? Yeah. And then after this, we'll come to create the app itself. So the command for creating an app is Django admin start app. So we could call the app as authentication because that is what we are going to look today. Authentication. Yeah, so then just press enter. So when you're less,
you missed the spelling. You missed the spelling. It doesn't have a problem.
It's okay.
The spelling.
Yeah, let's just continue. Just get the concept of creating the app. I'm very sorry. Forgive me for my typos. Yeah, so when you're done, you write code period to direct you to your IDE. So for mine, I'll use VS Code that I've installed from my machine. So this is how your folder structure should look like. As you can see, we have authentication, which is our project app, and then we have movies, which is our project app. Yeah, okay, authentication is our app project, and then movies is our project folder. Yes. So migrations, I'm sure all of you are familiar with migrations, making migrations and migrating. I'm going to explain that as we do it. So the init.py, what it does is it's just an empty file that defines a folder in a package of the app. Admin.file is where you add your fields when you have already when you already add your model classes. You'll come and call it here for it to appear on the admin side. So for the apps is where it just indicates the name of the app as it has indicated here. Then what models does, models is where it now contains the whole like the backend side of the app as MVP states. And then test. So we write tests in order to test if our apps are working, and Also going to tell you some of the importance of writing tests, though I hate writing tests myself. And then views is where you have the UI side. So whatever you indicate on the views is what the viewers will see from the front end side. So if you come to the project folder, you still have init.py, which I said earlier is the empty file that defines a folder in a package. Settings.py is where it contains all the settings for the web app, starting with what's important in the as an OS when they install hub. So here is where you will indicate everything that you install. Like for example, we have our app as authentication. So after this comma, press enter, make sure you have your quote, your single quote, and then write the name of the app as it appears from there. So it's like that, authentication. Yeah, that's the spelling that I used, and make sure you put the comma there. And then anytime you have to make sure you save. If you have autosave, it's okay, and if you don't have, make sure you control S in order to save your files. So we also have the media files that contain some of the files that comes with the virtual environment. Then the root config contains the root folders for the app. We have templates if you want to use the inbuilt templates by building in Django, because there are some people who prefer using front end for building the backend app. So WSGI, it's the endpoint of our compatible web services. Databases, this is where you put your database credentials. When you're uploading to Heroku, it will match credentials for you to enable you to upload it to Heroku. Auth passwords. Then we have our language is called time zone. I always change to African Nairobi because this is where Africa stroke Nairobi. This is where I am. Sorry for my typos. Yeah. Then static URLs. This is where when you want to use the static folders and templates, it means it will come and call the statics here. So urls.py. This is a file that is used to create the URL declarations. So like here, so this is Django 1, and it is Django 3. Yeah. So URL patterns this is where the URL file will just enable you to create your URL declarations, and for the URL patterns, it will also enable you to create instance of the URLs of the files that you want to display on the view side. WSGI is the entry endpoint to our compatible web services, as I indicated earlier. Then gitignore, this is where you indicate the files that you want to ignore that should not be visible on the GitHub side. Like for example, we have PyCache that comes with the app itself by default. There's so many things. So even if it's a virtual environment, it will come and the virtual environment, depending on the name that you've given it. For my app, I always give it .n because that is the default virtual name that's given here on the gitignore. License is just to clarify that you're the one who has created this app and you owe all the permissions. Then manage.py is a command line utility that allows us to interact with the Django application. So you'll notice that every time you want to run your app, you have to use Python manage.py. Run server. If you want to make migrations, you just use Python manage.py. Make migrations, Python manage.py. So this is a tool that will help us. It's a line utility that allows us to interact with the Django project in so many ways. Okay, and then README is very important. The purpose of README is to help you to give instructions to someone who maybe wants to download your app online, or instructions on how to use it in so many ways. You can check out my GitHub on the various apps that I've built and how I've tried to write my READMEs. So this is what I wanted you guys to look, how you create a project in an app folder, and I hope I've taken you through all this. So I want us to move back to the app that I had created earlier. It's a movie app, and I'm going to take you through everything. Let's suppose and how I built it, how what each file does, what each code does, and stuff. Yeah. And before we move to that app, I would like us to talk about some few things that involve the Django REST framework. Let me just close this one and open the app. So I come to my terminal, move back, go to my directory. It was desktop. Documents. Yeah. So this is the app. As you can see, this is what I was trying to create the other side. We have the authentication. Authentication is the app, one of the app folders. We have the project folder here. I have named it Movies Hub. This is the whole project folder. And then, so how I was doing it, I first tried to create authentication because so that it could just stand on its own. Authentication, the process of where a user logs in and there's a JWT token that is sent to the user, which returns back the HTTP request in order for them to enable them settle there and do their things. After that, I had also another folder named as booking. This is where people will come and book their tickets and stuff. I was also planning to create another folder called tickets, where the process on where after you booked your ticket online, the process of payment, and all those. So welcome to authentication. Please mute your mic. So I noticed that Django REST is quite different from the Django framework itself, because so the main advantage of how I went for Django REST framework is that it quickly helps to create the RESTful APIs, unlike Django. And then Django REST framework, what it does, it just, you see, when you're creating authentication with normal Django, you'll have to insert the Django registration folders. If you go to GitHub on my Instagram app, you'll see how I've arranged the folders. But with Django REST, it will enable you to have a WJT folder where it will automatically contain all the tokens, so that when you're doing the authentication process, you don't have to involve another Django registration folder. It just wipes away the process of registration and makes it shorter and quicker. So I also prefer, when you're using any app dealing with RESTful APIs, you could go for Django REST framework because it's kind of the best and easier compared to the normal Django. So back to our app. Make sure anytime before you run an app, you create your virtual environment to help you to run your work so well. So for mine, I had created my virtual environment and named it .f, as I told you. And then I have so many branches. Right now, as you can see, you're on the development branch, and it's very important when you're creating your app, make sure you have different branches so that when you get to delete them, when you delete master, all other branches will not be affected. And another thing that I mentioned to tell you before we start, what I do is that before you create an app, make sure you have a managing tool that will help you and guide you in order to meet your deadlines and your flow structure of your app. Like I always use Trello, pod that Clayton. I hope most of you have had Trello. So I logged into Trello. Just a moment, my internet is loading. So as it loads, yeah, so make sure you use any program management tool that helps you. We have Jira, we have Trello, we even have ZenHub that's powered by GitHub. It's automatically on GitHub. And then you write all the things that you want to achieve, all the steps on the floor of what you want. And then after that, make sure you go and design your database, design on how the site you want it to be, start the fields, so that when you start to build your app, you know what you want to do and where you want to start from. Like for example, mine, I have different projects that I've done. So one of the app that we're looking at is the MacBook. And you can see I had my to-do list here. The first one, I had the movie details, which I came and listed them here. This one when I was making my models, and I had to make sure I achieve all these. I had deadlines, a link to where the app should be. I came to users. The users are going, I had to write the description here and the link to GitHub. Yeah, I just try to manage this tool by doing everything. So for the ticket, I also have a description on how I want my ticket to do, what it does and everything. Inside the field, you can even give yourself a due date so that it reminds you that at this particular time you're supposed to do it. And then I also had another another card where I put all my done tasks. Like I'm done with authentication, it's here. I did everything. I gave a description. There's a mechanism association incoming request for identifying credentials of the token signed in with the REST framework that provides the number of authentication keys of the box. Yeah, so it's very important to use a project management tool. It guides you and helps you best when you're doing your projects. Yeah, so back to our app, we have authentication. Of course, I had explained what migrations are. We're going to run migration and see what it looks like. I had explained all these folders. So what I did, I was using JWT token, and what JWT does is it transmits the token from the client to the server side. So for example, let's say you want to, let's give an example of a Safaricom app. When you want to log in to the Safaricom, you as a user, you put in your credentials, and then you see the time the button loads, like the round thing that loads. The process is, so when you log into something, it always has a JWT token, the JSON web token. So what it does is that you send a request using a HTTP file to the backend, which reads and return it to you as a token, as a user, so that you can able to log in, and then so that it can able to display for you a successful message that you've ready to log in, and you can continue to do everything that you want. So all the process of authentication, some of the apps that uses JWT, that is how it happens. So the process loading, it always authenticates the JWT token, which returns it through the HTTP request that I listed earlier. And so I named my JWT token as backend.py. Then so we come and import the JWT tokens, and then from settings we have to import the Django.config. We also have to import the authentication from Django Rest framework and add the exceptions. Then we also have to import, so users are some of the fields that I added later on the model. Then after that, make sure you know how to create classes, because after you have written the term class, it's being followed by a capital letter. When you're writing functions like div, it's being followed by a small letter. And your indentation must always be okay in order for you to achieve everything. As you can see, the class comes on the far left, and then I had like 4 spaces of a tab, no, 4 spaces and 1 tab for a function. Yeah. So JWT can mostly secure the transcript into between the client and the JSON. So we have a class for JWT token. We pass in an authentication and base user authentication. So most of the time when you write things that you don't understand, you could come here to the file, you right click and go to definition. It will give you a definition of what you have, what you want. So like for the base user authentication, it will allow all the authentication classes to be extended into the format, and it also show you when you define the authenticate itself and the request, what it does, it requests and returns a true tuple of the user and token. So you can then read tuples on definitions of Python in learning Python. Then it will also raise a not implemented error. So these are raise exceptions. We have different types of how do you call it? raise exceptions in Python. So back to our app. Yeah, so and then we'll pass in identification, and then we'll pass in the authentication base authentication, and then all the basics to the bearer, to the lower, and then we write a function called authentication that will accept, we pass in the term and the test. So as I've given instructions here, or I've stated what it does with the code, that the method will enable you to call anytime an endpoint is accessed. So the method will just return a none when you want to authenticate or fail. For example, the authentication credentials are provided. It can also return a user token where authentication is successful. Then after that, you request a user, you equal it to none. Then you see the header that you had called here to the prefix. To get it to authenticate, to get authorization, and header request. All these things are in the JSON docs, and you can find them on Django Rest framework definition. So the moment you register, you pass this function of authentication. So this is now where we have the if statement. If not the author header that you've passed here as a prefix, if not, it will return none. But then if len author is equals to 1, it will also return none, but now return the len author is 2. This is where we expect the len to be true because of the invalid author, depending on the number of times that you want to log in. After that, we pass in the prefix of the author, which records to UTF-8. I've forgotten what that does. Then if the prefix lower, this one, so this is the shebang sign, we pass in the self-auth header prefix, which will return none. Else, you can have your authentication credentials that you pass the time you're logging in. Then you pass your self request and the token that is being sent through the HTTP file. It will just enable to help you to authenticate the token in order for you when you're passing. So this other function is for trying, except. So when you try, this is what it returns, except, and all those. After that, we move to our. So first, I had models in where we import the JWT token, okay, the JSON web token, in order for it to connect with the backend folder to communicate when you're entering your fields. After that, we import models from the Django database. Then we also import the users. So these are users that have created here. We have a base user, abstract user. These are types of users that are always found in the DRF framework. And also importing other things like date time to figure dates, and of course you have to import settings, because this app has been, you remember when we had dedicated it on the, when you come to settings.py on the project folder, so this hub. So remember when I told you anytime you install an app, you have to indicate it here in order for it, because this is the settings.py main function is just to hold all the installed applications. So remember we did it here as authentication. When you come here to the models, you have to also import it in order for them to read from each end. So we have created a class of a user manager. How I did this app is I created a super user, one user who will contain every field. After that, we had functions of other users in that one user to enable this super user to hold all these fields, so that every user that tries to log in will be able to like fetch from this super user that they had created. So base user manager, what it does is that it just overrides the normal user that always exists in Django and creates its own base user. And then we create, we define a function called create user. We pass in self and all the fields that you want to appear. So for my roles, I had 3 roles. This is a movie. So when I come here, I had 3 roles. We have a maximum user and a max user, which means a user who wants just to log in, and then a max admin, now the people who will enable you to create other roles into the backend. So here, the main role I had given for a super user is the max user, and then with the above field. So when you're trying to log into a web app online, and you entered your name as a wrong name or a name, because that times where you're supposed to you're asked to enter your first name. So if maybe your first name that you register with when the time you're logging in is wrong, it will return for you a message. Or the moment you're trying to log in and you don't put all these credentials, it will always return for you these errors. If you try not to enter your first name, to return for you your first name is not required, the last name also, username, password, all those credentials. After that, the user is supposed, so this is an indication that the user is supposed to pass on these fields for them to log into the system. Then this one is just how do you call this? I had them here. These are user roles that will enable you, that will turn the response when you log in. If you are stuck, because I had different users that are supposed to log in, to return the true if you wanted to log in. And then we have what an abstract user does is just the class for implementing a full feature model and for the admin complainant permission. And these are the fields that you had passed for the admin user. And then submit. Yeah, so these are some of the users that I had created. After that, we have the properties where it now calls the GTT token that we had created before. So this is just calls the token that when you're trying to log in, it finds everything of you as a user to enable you to log in. So they generate the GTT token here with the token expiry. Anytime you log into a system, you remember. So when you log into maybe to the Safaricom app and you just said that doing nothing, when you go again after 3 to 4 minutes, you'll find that you are unable to log in. So it will return a message telling you that please log in again to continue. But for this app, I've given it a duration of 24 hours, where the moment you log in and you just stand by doing nothing, it will not log you out until after 24 hours, like the next day, for it to log out. So the token will encode your ID, self, and the primary key linked to all your details that are supposed to log in. Then for the expiry, comes in with the token expiry that I had created there. Then after that, return the token that you had encoded it, encoded to your state. So after that, we come to serializers. The main purpose of a serializer is to, so what serializers does, serializers helps you, it just provides a shortcut to in a class field that will help you correspond with serializers allow you to, it allows you to convert the Django modules into the JSON objects and vice versa. So what it normally does, the moment you have all your models, it will convert into the JSON format that will be consumed using Postman to convert it to an object in order for it to be read. Because when you're converting data with JSON, Postman can only, when you when you want to test it using Postman, and I'll show you how to write the JSON format, it returns an object, and object will be able to return it vice versa using a JSON format for them to communicate. So that is the main work of a serializer. And under serializer, we find that we have at least, I think, four serializers that are due there, and I'm going to explain. So on our first serializer, we have the class registration. Remember registration that we had in our model here. We first had the registration, and so wait, we have to go to after models. After creating your models, which will contain your database, you have to come to the views. Views is where this is how the UI will look like. So you code on how the UI will look like. So when a user log in, they will get that there's a registration view that is there waiting for them to register. So we'll come here and create a class called registration and pass in the generic view. And of course, we give it a serializer class in order to connect to a serializer, which will enable it to change the JSON format to an object and vice versa. Then we pass in, if we define a post, and we pass in the self and request. So if at the serializer, if we return self and the serializer, it should also return the data request that you had sent. Then if the serializer is also valid, you raise an exception, which is true. Remember the exception that I told you earlier. It will come and save the whole data. Then it will also return a response that is expected to your user data and a message telling you that you have created your account successfully. So when it comes to serializer, we will come and create a class that has been called the views and pass in a serializer called a model serializer. What a model serializer does, it provides a shortcut that will let one automatically create a serializer that with the field that corresponds with the model field, right? Because from its name, model. So when you create a registration and pass in this model, it will just enable you to automatically set a serializer that will find the model field that you had created from the models. Then you pass in the fields, the first name, of course, the serializer, you give it the character field that is supposed to be given. Like here we'll have a character field, last name is a character field. For the password, you also have a character field, and then you give it a description. So you maybe want the password to not to exceed a maximum. You have it to have a maximum of 12 words, the length to be 6, write only should be true, and then if you write the wrong password, if you exceed, maybe if you write a password that is less than 6 or more than 12, it will display for you this error message. Then it will also give you a role when you're signing in. It will tell you of the role that has registered whether you are a maximum admin or a maximum user. Then this is for confirm password that you had created. After that, she'll give you message telling you whether. So the moment this is for creating password, and then this is for confirmation. You remember when you're creating when you're signing up for a LinkedIn account or a Twitter account, it will always ask you to create a password and then confirm password. So the moment you create a password, it will display for a message that you have, maybe your password is strong, weak, or something. After that, you also have to confirm your password by picking the same password that you had created. That's why these fields are the same. Then when you create a password that is less than 6 or you exceed 12, it will display the same message. So classmaker is a class that calls all the fields that you have created here. So you pass in all these. Another way that you can do this is to pass in the field as all. And this is, let me just uncomment this and pass it here. So instead of that, you can come here, just pass in the field as a minute. So you can write the fields, and then this is how you write all, meaning it will pick all the fields that have been indicated from the user login details. But for mine, I chose to pass in the fields directly from here. But the other way is that you can do that. Then this is to validate the credentials as you've logged in for the confirm password. If it's wrong, of course, it will raise an exception. And the moment you're signing up, remember authentication is the process that you're signing up and signing in. So the moment you're trying to sign up and then your password gets your password doesn't match with the one that you created, it will maybe help. It could ask you to replace your password with a new one. All these methods allow you to do all those. Then if the password does match, meaning the first password and the second password, this equal sign means this is equal to that, the double equal sign. So the moment you create your first and second password, if they match, it will label you to authenticate, and then it will display for you a confirmation password. That's all. For tests, I said I hate creating tests, but tests is very important to help you see if your tools that you had coded are working. It's very important. For the urls.py, this is where you, as I stated earlier, what urls does is it helps you to create a map between the URL and the view function. So in our views, you realize that we have the registration API view. So when you come here and register it, so that it can create a map between the URL pattern that will be able to. So the URL here, the URL pattern will be able to include an instance of the views that have been created in order for them to communicate to view it on the front end side. So I had created the authentication app for my movies booking system. The other app that I was still working on was the booking app, where it will enable users to book their things. And I created the models here. As you can see, I'll just take you. These codes are available on GitHub. You could just chat me in case you have many questions, because the time is also running out. So like here, I had a class for movies where you can type in the models. So this one contains all the information of the movies. The moment you have already booked, it will give you 3 choices of where it's either available, blocked, or booked. After that, I had the class for the tickets. Yeah, those are the things that I had done. I was done with the serializers and the views, not yet. So I have still a long way to go in order to finish my app, but I will keep you posted, and it's always on GitHub. You can always check it out for any additional information. So when you want to run this app, make sure you activate your virtual environment. Like for example, when you want to activate your virtual environment, you could write source space, then yeah, that was the name of my virtual environment. You write bin and then activate. When you enter, so this is the virtual environment. When it comes here, meaning you've activated it. When you want to run our server, you just use the command Python, forgive my typos, Python manage.py run server. So when it comes, it just means you don't have no errors. But that you can run your server, then you find errors. Let me just do something and see. You see, I show you how you can easily debug your errors. Like for example, if we have our models, and let me delete this abstract user here. You had built your app, everything is working, then you come and save your app. So you come here and yeah, it has given you an error telling you that there's no name called abstract user is not defined. So how you can come and debug this, just expand your IDE and then try to look on where the error is. It has just stated to us that the error is models on line 47. So you control left click. When you click on it, it will take you here, which means you have exported it, but you've not named it here. It has not been defined, meaning it has not been defined here on top. So just come here and define it under the Django contrib.auth models. You put a comma and then import the abstract user, then save. So when you run your app again, it will not give you any error. So this is how it is. My app is working. So another thing that we need to, I wanted to show you is how to create a super user in order to enable you to log into the backend. So you Control C, and then the command for creating super user is python manage.py create super users, one word. Python, yeah, sorry, python manage.py create. Yeah, so email, let's say it's monica@gmail.com. Oh, domain, so we can use maybe Doreen. Then our first name will be Doreen. Last name Oyugi. Contact, can put any number. Oh, it doesn't have to exceed send to this. Yeah, address 00611. Username is Doreen. So when you're creating, so this super user will enable someone when you want to sign in. These are the credentials that it will ask you. Just take Doreen. Then password is, you confirm the password. So when you come and run your server, come here and then /admin. You come and log in with the credentials. So it was Doreen@gmail.com. Then you enter the password. Yeah, so it will enable us to enter. So this is what I wanted you to see. And you can see when you viewed my modules, this is what was there. These are the models that I had written. So models enables you, remember, models are the files that will handle what will be contained in your backend. So we have users here. When you click on the users, these are the users that I had created. Then when you come to movies, oh no, well, there's an error.
What the hell?
You can't debug the right now, but the concept that I want to show is that whatever I because I've not created the serial letters and the views. Yeah, so this is what I had created on the model side. They'll definitely come and display it on the admin side here. Yeah, so I think that is all. Then also when you're doing your apps, don't forget to always just installed apps on the settings notify. Like mine, I had the authentication app, the booking app. I had co-headers that helps me to access the information and stuff. Yeah, and everything. So this is just the basic on how we create a project and an app in the app folder. I took you through the process on how I managed to generate my authentication process. And the other fields which I will finish, it's always at GitHub. You can always be checking. You can always clone it and try to view the code. So, let me see, do you have any questions? Let me not answer the questions. Oh, Marvin Collins, thanks. So the first question I gave was, is there a difference between the classes abstract user and abstract? Yeah, there's a very big difference. So the abstract-based user is like the parent that holds all the users, and then if we want to pass in like the child, we use the abstract. So abstract, so one of them is a parent and the other is a child. So we call in the parent and pass in the child. You're able to pick all the details or to fetch everything from the parent inheritance. Okay. Oh, my GitHub is Monica. I'll post it here. You'll have a look at it. Then could you please repeat on the debug part if you have an error and how to debug it? So how I do my debug time, like when we were running, let me take you back to my browser. Okay. No, this one. So like for example, Dolphin, if you have like these movies, it's telling us that there's no such table for a booking movie. The main possibility here could be we've not done either migration, concerning tables like my DB and stuff, and of course I have not finished the serial letters and the views. That is why. And when it comes to seeds, I think it is the same, doing the same thing because I haven't done migrations. Yeah, so basically how I normally do my debugging is we get an error and I'm not able to solve it. I just come to my terminal, copy, and then paste the error on my Chrome. And there's a possibility that you'll get so many people have solved the error in so many ways because there's Stack Overflow, there's the docs for Django Rest framework, depending with what you are working on. You can always debug your errors online. Just make Google and improve your Google searching skills. That is why I came to improve, because when I used to get an error all the time, I used to go and ask someone, and imagine it was just everything that I could do. So I trained myself on how to use Google properly. Get an error, copy paste what it's there exactly. Just be stupid for once, copy paste the error to your Chrome. You'll find possible errors and how to solve it. Stack Overflow is one of my best sites that has enabled me to debug my code easily. So let me test my GitHub account here so that everyone can have an access to. So another thing that I forgot to mention is that there are people who, when they're making a Django app, they prefer using the template inheritance, where you can just you can try to involve the templates and the static files in your same app, and there are others who will ignore and create and consume and create an API, test it using Postman, and then be able to consume it using a front-end framework like React, Angular, Vue.js. Let me show you something about Postman before we go on how the APIs look like. Still open. Again, don't forget the test for creating could create. I'm trying to put a new bit here. So this is my Postman, and these are the apps that I created. Like for my Max API, I only have one request. So when you come here to get started, you come to new, you create, you come to click on new and create a request, an API. Then you give it a folder of your choice. After that, you'll come here, and then within the app itself, you'll come and click on it, and then maybe create a folder. Like I created an authentication folder. When I'm done with booking, I'll come here and create add a folder we called booking. Just create it here. So I have 2 folders here. So I came and on my authentication part, I had only passed in the post. I had not gotten like the request. So when you're writing your JSON format, all these fields have got meaning, and today I'm not going to talk about those because I was not prepared to talk about what all these things does in Postman. What you know is that when you're passing in a post request, you have to come to the body and then click on raw in order to enable you pass in all the information here into a JSON format. You come here because the format here. So you pass into a JSON format to enable you to convert the object into a language that the app can easily understand. So how you pass in your fields, you use double quotes to pass in the first bit of each. Maybe it's the first name, and then you use a full colon, then finish it with a double quote, and then after every field, make sure you use a comma, and then you go to the next field. And then make sure your fields here resemble the fields that you had passed in the authentication. Like for example, here on my authentication app, you remember when I had my models, all these fields, the first, last, username, they're just the same as the ones that I've passed here, including the contactors. So make sure you pass everything so that you don't miss. Because if you miss on passing everything, it will not enable you to reach your API. So this is the API, like this is the final product, the API. So we'll come and type in this the IP address, this IP address. Just come and type it here. We have API1 view. Then you give it a folder name of the choice with register. For example, if I had booking, I'll come and write booking. If you want to achieve for a 1 user, you could put stroke 1 and try to look at it. If not, yeah. So when you send your request, it will display for you the response here. So mine I think it's well, there's an error. I'll have to look at that. So make sure you pass in all the fields that you add from your models the way you had called them from your app. This is how you write just a basic JSON format when you're passing in when you want to achieve your API. Yeah. Is there anyone who has got any other questions? Because we have past time. Madak, I think if there's no any other question, we're done, and maybe we'll do on deployment to Heroku next time if I manage to finish the app soon. I'll show people how to deploy a dynamic site in backend on Heroku. Yeah.
So thank you, Monica, for the good presentation, and thank you all guys who stayed with us up to the end of the video. The video will be uploaded on YouTube in the course of the week or next week. Thank you, son, and yeah, we'll plan for the other session here, Nini, hosting on that on Heroku. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, we will definitely do that. Okay, thank you guys for joining. Have a good night.